So, hello and welcome to the 41st episode of the Undermind. And my guests today are Dave Churchill. Hi Dave, long time no see.
Hello.
And Christian McRave, also long time no see. Hi McRave.
Hello.
And we have a lot of topics and current events to discuss, but before we get into that, the usual ramp-up phase where I ask what you've been up to, and let's start with Dave. What you've been working on lately?
Other than switching my classes online, I've been staying at home and doing a lot of programming. So I've done a bunch of things. Just really quickly, I upgraded UAlbertabot to Visual Studio 2019 and removed a bunch of libraries from it. So it's like you can actually compile it now in something modern, which is really nice. And I'm actually using that for my Game AI class as their final project. I have also written a small GitHub repo called StarDraft, which you can use to like visualize StarCraft maps and use it for programming algorithms. And also I released the Prismata AI as an open source GitHub as well, which is took a while, but it's pretty cool to have a retail game AI up on GitHub now.
By the way, the StarDraft visualizes maps how? Like a thumbnail or something, or much more simpler than that?
So there's if you look at the GitHub repo, there's actually a video there that you can see like how it works. So the StarDraft project. Oh, sorry, my push to talk key was messing up.
Oh, I see. I recall this now, seeing the thumbnails.
Yeah, so you have to run BW API with some code to extract the maps into a specific text file format. But once you have them, StarDraft will actually use SFML, which is this graphics library, to visualize the maps, and you can zoom in and pan around, and it like colors the tiles differently based on what the tiles do, like buildable tiles or walkable tiles, etc. And so that all came about because I was trying to do some work on UAlbertabot, and writing map algorithms within the bot is kind of difficult. So I just wrote that to help visualize things.
And I think we are one step closer to the ultimate goal, which is ASCII-based StarCraft.
Exactly.
And I heard that all Canadians say about in a different way, but no one actually says them like you hear in the movies. I think it's a boot or something is the stereotypical pronunciation of that word.
I think McRave says it like that.
Vote.
Let's not boot shame each other, though. It's just something I remember. And with my accent, I'm not the one to speak, so don't take it as well, teasing. Okay, back to the topic at hand. Stardust looks really nice, and the Prismata AI I will actually check out when I get to time, because I played Prismata and it was an entertaining game. It has had some stupid battles though. I actually I think I got stuck on one battle and didn't play it for a week or so. But I know.
That's because you're a quitter.
Yeah, maybe that might not be a bad thing in itself. But yeah, it's a good game. Go check it out. And yep, removing BWTA from UAlbertabot is also a good thing. I'm working on SCHNAIL pretty much 24/7 nowadays, and providing BWTA caches for every bot is like cumbersome, so to speak. And it's like I need to add the map, need to make sure there is a cache file, and need to make sure it's working fine. So let's try to move over that library.
Yeah, the way we overcame that with the aid tournament manager software is that each bot has like required libraries, and we just have them all in a zip file that we extract to the StarCraft directory, and then it saves a snapshot of the directory before the unzip and then deletes everything that was unzipped is just really annoying.
Yeah, it's like somehow this whole scene is full of solutions like that.
But like BWTA made a lot of things possible earlier on, so like I'm not saying anything bad about it. It's just, relies on libraries that were programmed in old versions of Visual Studio, so that's why I removed it.
No, it's not a bad thing in itself. It's just time to move on. And do you have any courses right now that are related to StarCraft AI?
So I'm teaching 2 courses right now. One is a group project software engineering course, which doesn't have anything to do with that. But the other one is actually the first offering of Comp 4303 at Memorial University, which is a game AI course. And so for the final project in that course, I gave students one of 2 options for a final project. One is to write a StarCraft bot, and the other one was only because a lot of the people in the class had never played StarCraft, was to write a Minecraft bot. So about 3/4 of the class is writing a StarCraft bot right now for that course.
If they haven't played StarCraft, I would just fail them, to be honest.
Yeah, I know, but the university has something to say about me failing people based on game preferences.
Well, one day we'll get there. And now let's turn to McRave. What you've been up to lately? What's up? You haven't been on the podcast quite a while now.
Yeah, I got pretty busy there for a bit with work. It slowed down recently, and I've been playing a lot of Path of Exile and working on my Zerg bot. So I've been updating that probably once a week or so. It's been fun just trying to make my mutas the most annoying thing.
I actually played against your Zerg bot recently, so I can confirm. And I think
it's really tough because I'm trying to use absolute like pathing to get them to move where I want them to, like around threats, but it doesn't really work all that great when there's threats everywhere.
And we streamed a little bit Dave's cats in the pre-stream. Dave, are you aware that Nightcat's cat is called Catsby? And if that's not the greatest cat name ever, I don't know what is.
It's pretty good.
That is a good name. Is his surname Catsby and his first name is Great?
Possibly.
I'm sorry, I won't do that again.
I think let's tease it a little bit because everyone knows what is our ultimate topic for today. But let's start with.
I don't know.
Yeah, actually, that's true. I was talking to Dave before the stream, and he's been a little bit out of the loop. So, first of all, the SCHNAIL, StarCraft Human and AI League, is in open beta now. And that means that you can download it and play against most of the bots that are on the SSCIT ladder. Not all the authors are registered though, so some versions of the SCHNAIL bots might be earlier than the SSCIT ones, so keep that in mind, but we are just starting out. And I don't know, Dave, I know you've been a little bit out of the loop, so the question is mostly to McRave, how closely you've been following the development?
Yeah, I mean, I've been watching pretty much everything that you've been posting.
Yeah, that's great. And well, dev time is the great bottleneck. We have the client server and the website, the main areas, and now that we are ramping up all the user count basically. This means that more and more stuff needs to be done, and it needs to be stable. We can't get away with hacking everything anymore.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to actually having an easy way to just like find ways to abuse bots in like silly ways, and then make some really dumb build that just abuses them. Like that's why I uploaded my Terran bot, and all it does is makes 12 bunkers on 15 supply, and then goes straight battle cruisers. And yeah, it got some wins, but it's pretty terrible.
I I actually cast a game of that.
What? Seriously? When was that?
Just today, just before this cast actually, and
Oh no!
that will go. I called it
It blocks the natural and everything. It's so.
I called it the Maginot Line tactic because it's a large impenetrable wall, but you said it makes bunkers, but not enough Marines to fill them.
Yeah, it's there because everyone's combat sim looks at a bunker and goes, "There's 4 Marines in there," and it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna just make 12 bunkers, put no supply into it, and then just make a bunch of battle cruisers on 2.
It's such a troll build, and I love it.
It honestly, it could work if it was more refined, but I made it in 15 minutes, and I was just like, I don't know, make a second refinery on like 40 supply. Sure, let's do that. I don't know. I didn't know how to do any of it. I just kind of threw stuff at it. I was so lazy with doing it that I just said, all right, when you hit 12 supply or 15 supply, go make 12 bunkers all at the same. Like I just.
Did you get that on Wikipedia?
Oh, I really should. Let me open up a page on that, I guess.
The old 18 bunker.
On 18, bunker, battle cruiser.
The great McRave build.
You could put that into the build order search system. Just say, I want 18 bunkers and a battle cruiser.
Oh my god, I wonder what Basil thinks of that build. Because Basil kind of is like, I can kind of figure out builds. If we had enough Terran bots doing it, it would just be like, I have no idea what this build is.
So yeah, on SCHNAIL.com you can just download the client, and in most of the cases it works out of the box. We still have some problems, but nothing compared to, and I'm not trash talking here, but configuring the ROP launcher, for example. So it requires Java, it requires like Visual C++ runtimes, and it's pretty much it. It had some problems with antivirus as well, but I think, yeah, we're much better off at this point. And I think like 90% of the user base didn't really have any problem installing it, which is like 89% better than what we had so far. Yeah, look at the SCHNAIL. It's kind of a joke because, as you might know, I live in Germany, and you know Germans start words with SCH. I'm not saying it's a good joke, but it's a joke. So yeah, McRave, you had a little bit more experience with the platform. Did you play many games on it?
I actually haven't touched it once, but I really want to, just because I kind of want to break my bot. I already know ways that I can break it, and I don't say it. I know I won't say what it is, but I'll say one of them. It's already public. If you just build something on top of where I was supposed to build, my bot will probably just get stuck forever. I don't know what happens.
There was actually a really old version of UAlberta bot that just buried a Zergling at every base.
Yeah, like that's like powerful versus 90% of the field, because they are like 95%. Nobody brings detection to their bases.
I think that could work in human games as well. I mean, usually what I see in human games as well, they just send out one worker and hope for the best. And clearly that's not something you should do.
What was the bot that would like burrow and unburrow all of its hydralisks, got close to it, and games used to last like 3 hours? Was that?
Did that exist? I've never seen that.
Yeah, I've seen it a couple of times. It was really funny though, and like you just see like a tank walking around, and all the hydras pop. It was like whack-a-mole.
I need to try this out. I was gonna do something like Molzerg at some point. I was gonna attempt it.
I don't know what that was, but sounds hilarious.
No, I will say something that, I mean,
I think it was overkill.
Molzerg? No, Molzerg, like burrowing like a mole. But yeah, in terms of playing StarCraft, I don't actually play like any StarCraft. I don't find it that fun. Like I like the game a lot. I love watching it, but playing it, I'm just like, super bored playing it because I have to put so much effort into just playing it at a minimally like decent level. And that's actually like another reason why I don't super love bot development, is that if you get to a point where all you're doing is just worrying about your build orders and your strategy and stuff, it just gets so boring for me. I just want to do cool stuff and have fun. I don't know. That's just me personally. So that's why I haven't used the SCHNAIL client. Is I just I don't want to play a whole lot of StarCraft anyways.
I loved playing StarCraft until it became my job, and then I hated playing StarCraft.
Reasonable, honest.
Oh yeah. I can certainly understand that it's a little bit different for me. I don't play too much StarCraft myself, but I identified the main reason of that, and that is other people. Because I played StarCraft even competitively back in the day. It wasn't any good, but I enjoyed doing it. But the sort and just dealing with other idiots is just too much. It's like you know, there were these LAN events, and imagine that you go into a LAN event, you don't even know the guy, and they act like what you see in many Twitch chats in streamers, just in real life. And I said, okay, I just don't need it. I just want to play a game. If I lose, I lose. I don't care. I don't even get upset if I lose. It's just the trash talking, the griefing, well, you know how people are on the internet. And actually that was one of the motivation behind the project, because you can practice against bots. You can have a challenge, and that's important, because if it's too easy, you get bored. But like, our bots are quite challenging at this point. We will return back to that point later. Oh man, I would be a great reality television host, because I can talk about like nothing for a long time and say that, oh, later this will be very, very, very important.
Have you guys seen that someone ported Bwappy to the N64 version of StarCraft?
What the fuck?
What?
No.
Are you serious? Yo,
No, I just wanted to hear your reaction.
oh my god, that'd be amazing.
I
don't even know how.
I'm horrified yet intrigued.
No, it's a joke.
Yeah, it was a good one. I believed it.
Late out of season April Fool's.
It's not quite out of season.
It's 3 days late, Dave.
Oh no, 3 days.
Man, that would have been the perfect April Fool's joke. It's well, still accepted as a latecomer.
Oh man, I wish someone had thought about that on April Fool and made like an article on it and everything.
Damn, missed our chance. So yeah, Dave, since you are not really familiar with this, from a research perspective, what do you think, what kind of data would be useful using this platform? First of all, I intend to collect replays as much as I can. Obviously, that will require user consent, but let's not dwell on that. And learning data as well. And we do that with bot versus bot games, but I think bot versus human games will evolve into a different meta.
I'm not sure. I don't know off the top of my head why bot versus AI or bot versus human games would produce more interesting data than just like human versus human games. Maybe if you're trying to like learn behavior of bots and how they play against humans, it's all just good data, right? I'm not saying that like the data isn't useful. I'm just saying I'm not sure how it's different than other StarCraft data.
I think in bot versus bot, you make decisions that counter what your opponent's doing, rather than inherently just being like a decent decision or the bot makes a really bad decision. So an example of that is, let's say you open Nexus First versus a Terran that cheeses you, and then on the next game you do it again. Well, the bot in this case is just going to do it again most of the time because it learned that it worked. A human's probably not going to do that. Humans, I think, just inherently know just maybe it won't work a second time. It worked once. It probably won't work for another 30 games. That sort of human data is, I think, going to be different than bot data anyways, at least for now.
And since we have a type of measuring success, which is win rate, I think many bots have seal clubbing behaviors. Like it's a dumb.
What's a win rate?
Dave,
I gotta get you back for the Aboot comment.
Dave, I can't believe that. That's completely fair. So yeah, and I was talking about the win rate, and it is it is a metric that rewards seal clubbing behavior, which is making a kind of dumb build that can beat the very basic bots. And obviously that won't work against humans. Although a good 4-pool bot can work.
I'm sorry, did you say seal clubbing behavior?
Yes, it is a term that I think Dan coined, which is yes, it's taking.
What does it mean?
Taking the lower ranking bots on the ladder and just brute force, like implementing a 4-pool rush against them.
Who came up with that? I know how Pan has it on his.
Dan is vehemently denying this.
I don't know
I'm
that.
see how.
I think one of the podcasts during one of the podcasts someone came. Yeah, Dan wasn't on the podcast, so it wasn't him. But I don't know. That may be Antigua.
It's fault. Okay.
Yeah, maybe Antigua was saying that. Oh, Dan came up with this and that. But yeah, it's I thought it was kind of self-explanatory. Don't you have seals in Canada anyway?
Actually, that's kind of a hot topic. The seal hunt. Paul McCartney came to Newfoundland, where I live, and protested against the seal hunt without knowing any of the science behind it, and it caused like a pretty big uproar here locally.
I want to be a seal hunter scientist. But yeah, let's not. I'm joking away the issue because yeah, it's actually a serious thing. But this is not the time or place to discuss it. So,
speaking of seal hunting,
yeah.
They actually used machine learning to try and identify seals on ice pans as a local project that someone was working on. So that's cool.
If you have links to that, I will post it. That's because that sounds.
No, I'm not. Just Google it.
Okay. Okay, back to the topic at hand. How is human versus bot data different than bot versus bot? Yeah, this is one of the things, the seal clubbing, and I think the meta will emerge that if a bot is predictable, it is much easier to defeat by a human, because ADS is a good example, or SCHNAIL, because it has one build or one, well, not one build, I'm sure, but a couple of builds that it does very well, and it has very good results with it. But if you're a human, you can learn that and counter that easily, and from that point on, you can basically beat SCHNAIL every time, and that does not necessarily mean that you're a good player.
Well, we saw in the early days of human versus AI, like I had things in UAlberta like the combat simulation, which was like, oh, I can win this fight. And it's like I have 16 zealots and they have 1 zergling, so I'm just going to keep attacking it. And then one of the early humans figured out, well, it's chasing my zergling, so I'll just run this zergling all around the map and their whole army follows me. And things like knowing when you're being screwed with is really hard to detect.
That's a very good point, I think. And we will need to adapt. And I hope we will enter an arms race now.
We will.
And I already saw some new faces on the SCHNAIL Discord wanting to develop bots, so that's very good.
Kind of just want to comment on the seal clubbing thing. I know some bots do that, but personally, I just don't see the power in that, because yeah, you're putting in low effort to club seals, but why not just make your bot more well-rounded and be able to take on those challenges? Losing to a low-level bot means more room for improvement to make your bot better.
I'll give you my salty example of why this matters. In the 2015 AID competition, Alberta bot had a greater than 50% win rate against every other bot in the competition, but it came fourth.
Wait, why? The top bot has 100%?
No, it beat every other bot one-on-one, but it didn't beat every bot enough to have the highest winning percentage overall.
Oh.
So the top bots seal clubbed really well to 100% win rate against all the like bottom half bots. But mine was actually like, it was playing the 3 races. And so it was the first time it played random. And so what happened was it usually won 2/3 of its games against a particular bot and then just lost the other third. And so like if we were doing instant runoff, it would have won the competition. But it didn't because overall winning percentage favors the seal clubbers.
I understand what you're saying, Dan, that win percentage matters in tournaments if you want to win them. But if your goal is to win, I mean, yeah, there's probably better exploits you can do and code very specific behaviors to exploit very specific bots to break them in certain ways. And I get that. I mean, it makes sense, but that's what pretty much seal clubbing feels like to me. Is you're just exploiting the fact that bots are stupid rather than make your bot really strong.
Well, I think a lot of people have been seal clubbing just through strategy selection learning. Like, you have 5 different strategies and you find the one that works and you always use it against that person.
Yeah, like I know Locutus has one where he basically just makes a bunch of cannons in his main, and that kills pretty much every rush bot possible. So that's a good example. It's just that if he runs that against me even 3 or 4 times, he's probably just going to die.
And I think a good topic of conversation is what, like, for example, if you make a bot to try and win the AID tournament, that's very different than a bot you would try to win a best of 7 against a human, right? Because you might have 100 rounds to learn strategies in the AID tournament versus you just have 7 games.
Right. Yeah, and in those 7 games, you need your best possible skills. And if part of that is your reliance on build A that crushed a bunch of rush bots, but now a new bot's coming in that's stronger and has a better rush, and your exploitive, I guess, super safe build doesn't beat that anymore. Well, you could have been working on skills like worker drilling and better concaves at your choke point. There's a lot more to work on there than just, okay, well, I built 5 cannons in my main and built a single DT and I killed this Protoss zealot rushing bot.
Well, I mean, it's you get into these things, now we're almost going to this like meta level discussion where, like, I used to play a lot of Magic the Gathering and we used to go to like regional tournaments and stuff when, I don't know, some random, like a bunch of creature decks were really popular, and the 1 or 2 people who played anti-creature decks won that tournament, not because they were better, but they happened to predict the meta and choose the deck that was good against the meta, right?
Yeah, I agree. There is going to be a need for that to change depending on what bots are entered into what tournaments as well. If they continue in tournaments like COG and AID to just transfer bots from the previous year that have these terrible rushes that just feed basically win percentage to the seal clubbers, then yeah, there's still always going to be that meta of seal clubbing. That's or Basil or SCAT, right? Like the high percentage win rate stuff doesn't really make sense in that.
For the last 2 years in AID, I've only transferred bots that had greater than 50% win rate from the previous year just to try and alleviate some of that. So there's not like, I'm not putting all the clowns back in, but no, it's not just the strongest bots either.
I understand. Like, I fully understand the concepts of why tournaments do the win percentage thing. It's easy to run once you have a script that runs them. Once you have it set up, it works. It's a lot of games, so learning can take effect, and that's really powerful for bots. And I understand why people do the seal clubbing thing. I think it is, you are cheating yourself. That's just how I see it. That's specifically why McRave does not have anything like that. I don't do any builds like that. I don't like the idea of, oh, well, I can just win versus this bot if I do this really stupid tactical.
And then there's the something I ran into when I was doing the Prismata bot for, it's a retail video game that more people play, is that seal clubbing, it's unfortunate, but the thing that you want to avoid the most is losing to something stupid, because that's when people really start to criticize your AI. So you kind of you want to avoid, in order to make a robust AI, you want to avoid the seal clubbing, but you also have to have some of these things where it's like, well, I've got to have some code in there to protect against the worker rush, just because I'll look really stupid if I lose to it.
That's fair, yeah.
So it's especially when you get into like retail game AI, which is a little different, you just want to avoid looking stupid as much as you don't necessarily need to be the smartest, but you do need to kind of avoid the mistakes that humans would consider stupid. So the Prismata AI bots would do, they're not like expert human level, but I had to put a lot of effort into fixing the really dumb mistakes that humans never made. And that was actually surprisingly difficult.
I think that's why that's the same thought process I have, is if humans don't lose to it, what do they do? What do humans do? Okay, well they scout more, or they, send their overlord here. They do this with their units. Okay, well, you can replicate 99% of what humans do. It's just figuring out what that is.
Mm-hmm. And that the example I gave earlier of like, my zealots are trying to chase around this zergling. Well, a human instantaneously knows, okay, he's just trying to bait me out. But what's the algorithm for detecting being baited, right? It's difficult.
Exactly. It's time spent towards progress, rather than just being like, I'm going to throw in some code that just moves past them, and then hopefully I can just smork right at the.
And this was actually like the reason that I stopped development on a bot. Like, so, very selfishly, I wanted to have a really good tournament result to like finish my PhD. And so 2013, U Alberta bot won, and then I was like, okay, no more work on this, because up until that point, geez, that was like 7 years ago, it was really, quote unquote true AI wasn't good enough to drive an entire bot, right? And so why am I continuing to improve this? It's just a bunch of hand-coded scenarios like, what do I do against a cannon rush? What do I do against a worker rush? And that's like not helping me graduate, because that's not quote unquote real AI, right? And that's kind of where bot development was at the time, and kind of still is for a lot of people.
Yeah, and that's where we're at. That's into the how do I strategy into code, basically, portion of it is part of it, which I find really boring. And yeah.
But if you're not DeepMind, that's all you can kind of do is, for U Alberta bot, in order to try and get some AI into it, well, it's like, well, let's try and apply AI to build order planning, or let's try and apply it to combat prediction, or some small part of it. But you really like, every bot that does well, you go through it and you see things like, well, if it has a cloaked unit, I need to do this. Or if it has zerglings this early, I need to do this. Because if you don't have that, you just get beaten by something that looks really foolish. And that's worse than publicly, you lose a lot more face by losing to something stupid by not having those rules. So you just need it.
I agree that you need the rules. I personally don't think it's a good idea to, for example, if the bot you're going against is just going to 4-pull you, make 4 cannons in your main. Like, if it's going to happen before the game starts because you're a seal clubber. Anyways, we should probably get off the topic of seal clubbing. But yeah,
that's fun.
I think it's a difficult topic, but I just think that making your bot more well-rounded is, I don't know, it makes more sense to me.
I'm pretty sure that Sanko fell asleep like 20 minutes ago.
No,
yeah, because we started talking about like fingerprinting, as Dan called.
I just, as a rule, I let my guests talk as much as they want to, because every show is about the guests. So, my addition to the seal clubbing issue, I think let's work backwards because metagaming in any kind of competition is inevitable. And I think the thing we need to fix is the reward loop in these kind of tournaments. And I'm not saying that in bot versus bot tournaments, win rate is a bad metric. It might be a good one. But I do think that in bot versus human, it might not be the best. Or, well, it's not even true, but we might need to consider other avenues as well. And
if I can interject for 1 second, one of the bad things about win rate, you really need like hundreds, if not thousands of games for that to matter, right? And so that's obviously not possible against humans. But also, I'm really happy that some tournaments like SSCAIT don't use it because it's boring, right? Like when we're running aid, we know the winner 15% into the tournament being run, usually. And so, if that's the reason why I don't put the results up in real time, is because people would just lose interest because win rate is just not exciting. And so having something like, a best of 16 or best of 8 or whatever as the final determinifier is those tournaments are exciting and they help draw people in. And so statistical significance is not always the best metric for like getting people interested in your topic. And so you kind of need different competitions with different winning metrics and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
I really like AIST by Antigua. I do like that.
What do they do?
He just does like a double elimination, just random seed and most recent maps in ASL.
So
really good.
The first ever competition, that was the first aid competition, was double elim and random seed. And a lot of people kind of got salty because their random seeds were just bad. And so they lost in like the second round because they played against like Crazio and Overmind in the first 2 rounds, right? So it's like when you're trying to publish something and say how good you are, it's like, well, maybe you would have come third, but you actually came like 40th because of these random pairings.
Almost like tournaments should do a percentage one for people to be like, how good is your bot versus everything, and then do an elimination one for 8 tournaments. But that's a lot of extra work.
Yeah, I like the idea of round robin and then taking the top X, because you eliminate the clowns and then you have an exciting final. Or you could do something like Swiss rounds where it's random pairings for the first round, and then all the 1-0s play against all the 1-0s, and then all the 2-0s play against the 2-0s, and the 1-1s play against the 1-1s and stuff. And at this point for aid, it's more like I don't have time to do all that stuff anymore, so I'm just going to run the software that I have.
Yeah, that's understandable.
Clown Eliminator is a job title I want. And that is a point that I actually wanted to bring up a little bit later, how to actually rate the bots on a human versus AI ladder. I've been talking about this in multiple podcasts, but I think Dave, you might have a good perspective on this. So in short, the problem is that people can exploit the bots, and generally if they can win against the bot one time, they can beat it every time, and that's not quite the case with humans. So what I'm thinking is have a ladder when you can't pick your opponent. You get a random opponent, maybe a weighted random, like we do have on our ladders, something close to your MMR score. Let's call it MMR for the sake of this discussion. And it is anonymized, so you don't know the name of your opponent, and thus you can't just metagame it. And the rating is, well, basically something based on ELO or actually ELO. Actually, it is ELO, if you didn't know that, because it's yeah, I'm serious. It's named after ELO Arpad, a Hungarian guy, and it's how it's pronounced, but ELO is fine. Okay, so how to best rate the bots, well, the skill of the bots against humans, bearing all in mind that I just said. I think an anonymized ladder where you don't know actually who is your opponent is your best bet.
So it's a difficult problem, and the one example that I have that I was able to do in a real world scenario with Prismata. So for example, people out there probably don't know what Prismata is. So it's essentially picture StarCraft without geometry or moving units. It's like I don't want to call it a card game because it doesn't have randomness, but it's kind of like StarCraft in that you have build orders and you attack and defend and stuff like that. So with Prismata, what I did was, because I was one of the developers, we had a human versus human ladder where people at the time, there was like hundreds of games being played a day, etc. One of the big complaints about the AI system was that it was very exploitable. And so, for example, the Prismata AI did like a one-turn look ahead to see how much attack you could have on the next turn. And that was really exploitable by people who, for example, saved up all their gold over multiple turns and then like bought a bunch of units at once. And humans are really good at detecting that exploitable behavior. So that's what they do when they played their like 3 wins versus the AI to get their daily reward or whatever the company had. They would just exploit the bot in the ways that they knew that the bot could be exploited. But then what I did for the paper that I wrote was I ran the bot. So I hacked a version of the client so that it would join the human ladder, but be controlled by the AI. And I wrote in a move or so an action randomization timer so that, you know, if the bot is just playing instantly, you'll know it's a bot. But I like put in random delays between all the clicks and stuff so that to try and mask the fact that it was a bot. And the bot that was so easily beatable by people who were opponent modeling it, as soon as they thought it was a human, it had an 85% win rate against the same people. Because they were trying to play against it in a standard way, versus before, if they know it's the bot, they're going to do the specific build order that beats it. And so it's crazy like how much stronger your AI becomes when people aren't trying to opponent model it. So it's difficult to do that in a situation like SCHNAIL because maybe you don't have like humans playing versus other humans, so they know they're always playing against a bot.
Exactly.
Right? So I was lucky that I had that way of literally saying they don't know they're playing against a bot, so I had a true evaluation of the bot's skill level without being exploited. But I don't know. I think that's a difficult problem, and I think maybe you could do something like even like a survey of humans that played against it to say like what areas do you think it's strong or weak. But I've also shown that that is kind of bad because humans are really bad at judging how the AI is doing things, and so they're going to rate parts of it probably not at the real skill level based on their like biased opinions of the bot. So that was a long way of saying I don't know.
Yeah, but you identify the problems, and yeah, that's the biggest problem, that the bots don't play each other on the SCHNAIL ladder, and the humans neither. And yeah, evaluating bot ability, it's bad because people are biased in the first place and might just vote it down for griefing purposes. So yeah.
And I also, kind of a funny story was that, especially with the retail version of Prismata, whenever the AI made a mistake, there was like a Reddit post about it. So that was kind of annoying, but it was also like how wrong people were about the AI, where they'd say like, oh, the bot is like, it's really afraid of this strategy, so it's really bad against it, or it's kind of cowardly, so it doesn't want to do this. And I'm like, no, that's just because this number was bigger than that number. Like there's all the emotions and human qualities that people assign to AIs that are just completely wrong and just happen to be coincidental is kind of hilarious.
Oh yeah.
That's kind of like how combat sims work, right? Where it's just like, why didn't you engage there? And it's like, well, it was like 2% away from engagement.
Well, what I would, how I operate is I assume my average user is the guy in the chat. a term coined by Artosis, but so everyone knows what I'm talking about. And my average user is not the guy in the chat. That's not what I mean. It's like you have to prepare for the worst. And yeah, I just saw that when Artosis played some of the bots, there were comments like, "Oh, this is so bad," but this bot is literally playing one of the top players in the fucking world. How is that any fair comparison? I could list some of adjectives here.
Twitch chat is gonna resident sleeper everything, right? So
yeah,
like I remember so we had what's his name? Kriparian played Prismata on stream, and like there were 20,000 people in the chat, and 19,990 of them were like just trashing the game, right? But they'll do that because it's entertaining.
Yeah, but like Kriparian is famous for very good at this type of games. So
something real quick that McRave just said, which is really interesting. How like, oh, the combat sim said I was like 2% off of winning. I actually had a research idea for a paper that I never followed up on, so people can steal this if they want, where let's say if you had time to train against like previous versions of a bot or something, and I introduced this variable called alpha. And so what this alpha variable is, it's a number between 0 and 1, where in your combat simulator, you take alpha % of your actions to be random actions. So like 0 would be normal combat simulator, 1 would be I'm doing completely random actions. And if you change this variable, it's essentially saying like my AI is acting a little bit worse. So if I could beat you in the combat sim with like alpha equal to 0.2, meaning that I'm doing 20% random actions, then like you're just worse at micro than me, right? So the combat simulators normally assume that both people are equal, and that's the problem, is that both people are not equal. And so some of the worst bots are getting away with not being attacked. Combat simulator is too generous. But if you could figure out this value of alpha for each opponent, it's kind of a measure of how bad they are at micro. So let's say I play against like, I don't know, I'm not going to say a bot name, but some bot that's just worse at me at micro, and figure out that, well, my highest winning percentage against them is when alpha is like 0.3. Then I can take that to the tournament and attack sooner when the combat simulator would have said don't attack, and that could get me a lot more wins because that bot is just bad at micro. So that's an idea that
you are allowed to make use if button as an example in any of your comparisons.
That's really
no, but like, yeah. So what you do is you bias the combat simulator with this variable that means I'm taking this many random actions or even null actions, right? So it's just some way of saying, well, if I can beat you with the same army with this, it's just a measure of micro skill, I think.
I like this approach. Obviously someone needs to implement this to see how well this works, but it sounds like something very very sound, or at least a good base to start this kind of, I don't know, optimization.
Maybe when I get some research time back, I will try and implement that. But you know what I'm saying, right? It's almost like a lot of these bots, you can tell, well, if he just pushed in right now, he'd win.
Absolutely.
Right? I'm assigning gender to the bot. But if the bot just pushed in right now, they'd win. But the combat simulator is obviously saying, don't do that. And then you're letting them get to the point where now they have mutas and you lose, right? So you've got to find that metric, that value that says you can attack now. And I think that's one way that you could possibly do it.
And generally, if you can afford, that's a good way to improve your bot. If you can afford it, just do random shit and later evaluate how well it went. You can't hardcode everything. All right, I think we are kind of finished with this topic. So maybe let's have the penultimate topic of today, which is the show matches. And first of all, since Dave, you haven't really got the time to watch them, I will spoil them for you. I'm terribly sorry. First of all, first was the Cadenzi show matches. Cadenzi is quite a skilled player, and she went 3-2 against Locutus. Now that's a very good result in itself, I think. And
good in what way?
Sorry?
Good in what way?
Good in showing the bot skill. I mean, Locutus performed very well.
Oh, I knew the answer to that question. I was just trying to, expand on that for the viewers.
Okay. So, yeah, it was a very good showcase, and actually 3-2 going either way is the best result we could have hoped for.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah.
And one game Locutus kind of derbed out. That wasn't good. And the second game, I think, second or third game, Cadenzi just busted the natural of Locutus, and she just took it easy from that point, and ultimately that cost her the game. It was amazing to see, because she just thought, okay, I won anyway. I just do some other stuff, and didn't look at the army advancing. Locutus defended it well, got enough goals, and defeated Cadenzi. So that was amazing to see.
You know why Locutus craps out sometimes, right?
I do not.
Because it's some of my code in there hidden.
And yeah.
He's honest.
And well, there was some terror analyzing bug, I think. And the replays are, I don't know if they are publicly posted. I have to ask Bruce himself. But yeah, they are very, very interesting to watch. And the last game was actually pretty close. It was a base trade, and like Cadenzi almost lost. Locutus yet again derbed out a little bit and didn't move in to finish the job, and ultimately Cadenzi recovered and won the game. But yeah, it was just great.
No, that's really cool. I'm definitely out of the loop more than most because of work and stuff. But whenever I do this podcast or interact with the community again and get up to speed, it's like amazing how far everything's come and how much work people like you both are putting into it and getting these show matches. And like AI is now like further up the spectrum in the StarCraft scene, and it's just really cool to see what's happening. And that's like an amazing result that we couldn't have even, imagined a couple of years ago.
I think the main reason that it was amazing to watch was Cadenzi basically just lost to Goon Micro. That's it, right? It was the game she lost. It was just these goons that she couldn't do any damage. It was amazing, really.
And also, yeah, go on.
If you guys watched the Alpha Star matches, can you compare how the games went in comparison to that?
I didn't watch the. I watched some of the Alpha Star games. The Alpha Star games were, in my opinion, more impressive still. But I think the reason for that is that StarCraft 2 Micro is just a lot easier. There's no units bumping into each other and shit, right? You just, all right, this guy moves back perfectly. This shuttle come here, drop this Archon that immediately attacks. Yeah, no problem.
So I didn't mean like let's list all the ways that Locutus isn't Alpha Star. I meant like in terms of like how close the games were or the strategies used. Like for example, it was pretty obvious that Alpha Star abused the hell out of Stalkers, right? Because they're just so good. What did Locutus do in its games?
I think for the most part, it kind of just made goons and just microed stuff, and it was, and that's for the most part why it won. It was similar to Alpha Star in that way. It was very much just abusing micro. It didn't make amazing decisions or anything like that. It was just very much abusing very strong micro that the human can't keep up with. And I think microing units in Brood War is just way stronger than StarCraft 2 anyway. Like if you keep a unit alive from Brood War, it's like, wow, they do so much damage.
Yeah. But I think in my opinion, I think StarCraft 2 is probably more exploitable in that way because you just have things like Blink, right? Like how strong is Blink if you, right?
Yeah.
And Blink wasn't made with AI in mind, obviously.
Mhm.
I think the DeepMind team is basically the Batman of the bot development world because their superpower is money. It's like they are orders of magnitude more funded than the average bot author. And I
To
don't
give them credit, they are also Bruce Wayne in the fact that they're the best minds in the world, right? Like it's
absolutely.
money, but you could give that money to me and I wouldn't make AlphaStar.
Absolutely, I'm not denying their achievements. Don't get me wrong. I think that what they did is amazing, but they had a considerable base to do it, and I don't want to diminish their achievements. I'm just saying that we don't play on the same field.
Yeah, and without
Yeah,
getting too much into like what makes StarCraft different between Brood War and 2, I think AIs will always struggle in Brood War with army movement. I don't want to get too involved with that, but it's very obvious that StarCraft 2 army movement is a lot easier. Brood Wars is just crazy difficult.
I wrote a paper on like the 17 steps that happen between you issuing a command and the attack actually being issued, right? Like the first 2 years of Brood War AI were people realizing, oh, if I issue the attack command every frame, my unit just stands there and doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just like, oh, okay. Or if I spam the gather command, it does nothing. What happens when you morph a drone? Well, currently the orders are
like this was okay. So 4 years into the StarCraft AI scene, we had our first bot that didn't crash a single time during the competition, and that was like a major thing. So my opinion about, for example, even SIDA or something like that, or the Facebook team was like, just having 2 people working on a bot where one of them is a paid software engineering professional is huge, because for a long time the bot not crashing was like the first goal. This is a hard software engineering problem.
Well, I'm proud. I am not a software engineer, but if we go ahead and look at McRave, it has 0 crashes since September. Come on. That's some. But my Zerg bot has plenty.
We definitely come a long way, and I'm quite happy that we are there. And it's basically a 10-year journey at this point, right?
You still had 5 crashes at aid, though. I'm sorry.
I know.
Actually, that's not really fair because I think those crashes are only actually counted for DLL bots because EXE bot crashes can't actually be detected.
But I actually can't remember what my crashes were. I think it was bad pointer. I don't know. I think it was just accessing something that didn't exist anymore. So, I don't know. They're all gone now.
Is McRave built on any other bot?
Nope. I made that dumb thing all from scratch. And
nice. It's your baby.
Little baby McRave.
Oh, dude, if you compare it to like any other bot structure, it's terrible. It's all over the place right now.
Let's compare it to IfBot.
Oh, IfBot. He's messaging me right now, MP.
What's IfBot?
It's an entire bot in one file that's just if statements.
IfBot and the successor Kangaroo bot is a big meme bot, but it's awesome. And
it wasn't like TSC Moves bot one header file at one point, took like 18 minutes to compile.
Wait, what?
I don't know, but OpenBW is basically one header file.
What? Dude, I've seen his code. It's like mad scientist level. It is.
Oh, that guy is, and if he's listening, like he's like mad scientist is a good way to describe TSC Moo and his program.
He's a fucking G. He has to be.
Yeah, it seems like it's okay. I'm gonna win this tournament. He sits down for an afternoon, codes a bot, gets bored, and wins the tournament anyway.
I'm not even talking about bot programming. Just like his level of low-level programming and the way he programs, like using modern C++ that I can't even read. Like his bot code. If you've ever like accidentally looked at like the STL code, like the C++ STL libraries, like that source code, that's what his bot code looked like.
Well, I hope that I can have him sometime in the future in the podcast. But yeah,
He's elusive.
Yeah, and oh man, he posted that. I guess that the other day he beat a purple wave using Corsairs and DTs.
Nice,
So,
an actual strategy.
No. In Protoss versus Protoss, he beat
Oh,
the other Protoss with Corsairs and DTs because
Dan even make flying units?
No, here's what happened. Dan would make observers and he would fly his own Corsairs on top of it, attack each other, splash the observer, and then send DTs in.
Oh,
Yeah.
so he's abusive.
Like, you gotta be actually shitting me that he could do this. He's just he's
this is the
flashing his own units.
I've been saying this for years, that the first bot to really beat humans will be abusing shit like that. Here's one thing that I don't know why no bot has exploited. Just do this and win competitions. You can drop a tank out of a dropship, and on the first frame it lands, it can shoot, do the damage, and on the next frame it can be picked up. And if you watch this happen, like, Dragoons can't even shoot the tanks. Like,
So you're
it
telling
takes
me
them.
I should make this.
It takes
I have reverse
7
shuttle
frames.
movement.
It takes 7 frames for a Dragoon to shoot. It takes 3 frames for a Marine to shoot. And a tank can shoot in 1 frame after being unloaded from a dropship. And, like, you can even... So someone made a demo of this, like, 10 years ago, which was they had a screen of sunken colonies. Literally, a screen of them. They dropped a tank, shot on the first frame, all the Sunkens shot at the tank. The tank was picked up before the sunken spike came up, and it, like, the spikes came up, but there was nothing there anymore.
Okay, this is something I'm gonna have to do at some point.
What I don't know is actually transport have on load/unload timer, right? But can you drop a unit and pick it up immediately with another transport? I guess you can.
Probably. I mean, I have the micro for it, so I probably could make... If somebody makes a Terran build for it with my bot, you could make it happen. It has all the micro for it. I just don't have the Terran skills, and I don't have the build.
Dan mentioned this method which is awesome. Which bot was that? Killing observers by put your Corsair on it and shooting it with another one of your Corsair, and the splash damage will kill it.
Yeah, I want to see that replay so bad. Like TC Mini.
Also,
that was TSIMO. I don't. Sorry, I didn't get that.
Yeah, that was him.
You need to have a SCHNAIL bot that this is how you beat humans. You fly 5 engineering bays over your army because the bot can click on its units to micro them underneath the engineering bay. Just do that shit.
Yeah, do it. Absolutely do it. And these types of things, when they have 100% win rate, I will ban those strategies, but not until that point.
Even better. I'm just gonna make it so that
it's a bot. No. It should be able to do bot things.
Yes.
I'm telling you guys, I'm gonna make a build where I'm gonna make like 100 engineering bays and just float them at the enemy. I'm just gonna turtle, and that's all I'm gonna do. That's what my next Terran build is gonna be.
So
it literally has no strategy.
Dream big.
Instead of 12 bunkers, it's gonna be 12 bay.
Yeah, 12 engineering bays on 15 supply into 14 bunkers because MP's doing. So I'm doing 14 bunkers on 30 supply.
So someone asks your build order and you say 12 bay and they're like, oh, so I make an engineering bay when I hit 12 SCVs?
No, did I fucking stutter?
Did I fucking stutter? You make 12 engineering bays on 15. Why? So that you can float them at them and demoralize.
Like 8 racks, 8 bay.
Oh, the proxy sunkens. Oh, I have plans for that. I was going to make a bot that leapfrogs proxy sunkens with a hatchery. Yeah. It was going to hide the hatchery in like the corner, make like 20 drones, and then just start morphing them all at once, and then just start leapfrogging. It's going to be amazing if it works. I do plan on doing that at some point, but I don't know. Basically, you just make like 12 drones, and you basically make nothing else, and then you just hide a drone, make a hatchery, and then just start making tons of sunkens. You don't care who dies anymore because you're taking their main. That's your end goal. You're taking their main, and hopefully they suicide units because they're like, we gotta kill this sunken right now, and then they suicide units one by one.
That's actually how they sound.
Yeah, it's literally a cannon rush, but Zerg. Yeah, that's how they said. It's cannon rush, but Zerg style, and you can start mining their stuff afterwards. So you can basically just forget about your main entirely. I don't know. I'm planning on trying it. I just gotta see if I can make it work.
It reminds me a little bit of Age of Empires when a tactic was walling the enemy in, because you can build in Age of Empires 2, you build walls faster than most units can destroy it.
Sounds amazing.
Well, there's on the old Saturday Night Live, like back in the 80s or whatever, there was one episode that I remember where it was the all steroid Olympics, right? Which is, well, if we're going to see like what humans can do, let's let it happen, right? And so we should have that version, but for bots, where like all the bullshit is allowed. Like slide your buildings up walls and like all this kind of stuff. That would be really interesting.
It's funny you say that. I was thinking of allowing cheats in AITT if I ever did it again, where people can just see if they can make it work.
Let's call it Steroid League.
In some way. Yeah, you could break it in some way.
Steroid League, you heard it here first.
I don't know, man. I was tempted to do something like that anyways.
Yeah, just let bot use cheat codes. Except for invulnerability, obviously.
Yeah. They can, like, I was going to do fastest map possible because that's basically the equipment.
But not only that, just do like, here's 10,000 gold and gas to start with.
Nothing costs energy anymore. That'd be amazing too. Just everyone can just cast as many storms as you want.
Geez, Dave, they are called minerals.
Yeah.
Actually, I think that if you just rerun the competition, but you use all the maps starting with 10k resources and just see what happens.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Like show matching that would be really funny.
I would love to see such stupid tournaments.
Because like Alberta bot and all the bots based on it would just instantly build everything in the build order, right? Because they have all. Yeah. But it would be really funny because it would, like, all your minerals, like all your workers would immediately start building everything. They wouldn't even go gather.
That would actually be a part of the strategy if everyone just started with 10,000. Like, what do you do? That's the AITT. No expansion needed. Just what do you tech to as fast as you. You don't need workers anymore. Who needs workers?
Like, that's one of these modifications that actually might not break the bots. And you could just...
You'd have to code around it, and that's about it.
It has been a point of Antigas that the SCHNAIL ladder has been kind of stale in that regard, that we are playing on the same maps in the same format, and some things are just ignored because of that. Yet again, a kind of metagaming. And I think the variety in tournaments is needed to have more and different bots.
Yeah, would Zerg just start 4-hatch?
That's reasonable, yeah. I could be custom map for that.
Because by the time, like, you can't even be worker rushed if you go 4-hatch, because their workers can't kill 4 hatcheries before you get stuff out.
Or if everyone just started with 6 bases at once. Now what? I did islands last time. That was my shtick last year. That was fun, except everyone just kind of rushed carriers. Actually, someone went scouts. Can't remember who did that. That was fun.
Okay, let's have the last planned topic for today, which is the Artosis show matches. And first of all, I have to say that the presenting and the whole experience was awesome. So, well, it's no secret that Artosis have some screen presence, but still, it was great. And what I really liked that he represented the bots as they are. He didn't sugarcoat anything, but he didn't have any kind of bad I don't know how should you say that, like he didn't spread bad beliefs or misconceptions about bots, so it was very well put together.
Yeah, he didn't shit on them.
Yeah, basically. But no, that's not what I mean. I mean, he didn't speculate on stupid shit. Maybe that's the best way to characterize it.
Yeah.
And Dave, you, sorry for spoiling it yet again, but still, it is very well worth watching. So he did defeat all the bots ultimately.
It is very well worth watching.
Is that not a sentence?
No, it's all the V's.
Oh yeah, okay.
Sorry, we're just giving you shit.
No, that's fine. I just thought you didn't. That was somehow wrong grammatically or something.
Just look at the sentence I typed.
Yeah, sure. That's fine.
I agree with Dan saying, like, Artosis handled the AI topic really well. His chat did not. His chat was.
Oh yeah, let's
so
not
rude
talk
for
about.
no reason. Yeah.
The guys in the chat was yeah.
Oh, okay,
people...
there, guy in chat. How about you come back in 15 minutes? Tell me how bad I am again.
Yeah, it's
banned. It's like, okay.
So
you're saying that anonymous people online were being mean?
What? You would think they would do that? Just go on the internet and lie.
Nice meme. So
that's an Arthur comment right there. Ooh.
I got the reference, McRave. Who do you think I am?
Good.
I didn't abandon the meme game, I have you know. So yeah, Artosis handled the topic very well, and what should I say is yeah, let's talk about the guy in the chat effect a little bit. It is hard asking the same questions. That's okay. Like, people have misconceptions. People just don't know what it is. But it's like, he's one of the top players in the world. He defeating a bot, it's not a surprise. And it's like, and of course the bots were cheating, they were map hacking, and they can see everything. And the worst is when the guy in the chat knows everything better and educates everyone.
Oh yeah.
Oh, they just use map hack. Of course they do.
Yeah, that's definitely what they do.
So, on to a little bit more serious topic, as serious as we can be at this point in time. The first game was versus Seda, and basically Artosis just realized what Seda was doing and defeated it relatively easy. But still, it was a good showing, I think. Relatively easy because he actually needed to concentrate and play well. But it wasn't like phoning in or just relaxing and then moving. He actually paid attention and well defeated it.
You know why Saito lost, right?
Because it was map hacking? No.
No, because it had my code in there.
Yes.
I did watch that game. It does show the weakness that Saida has, which is what Crazio did after Saida came on the scene, which is basically just quick tanks and contain. Saida is really bad at breaking contains. Really, really bad. It's probably worse than Iron and Crazio in that regard. Like, it just gets contained. It just sits there and doesn't really move out. Doesn't have wraiths, I don't think, but has really good drops. So if you contain it and you defend the drops, you just resource it. You know, just let it run out and just starve.
By the way, we just reached 100 SCHNAIL users, just so you know.
Oh, wow. What the hell? That's a lot.
Yeah, that's quite a good number. Although some of those are bot authors, so that's but I think most of them, like, still a lot, yeah. And I hope that number will continue to increase. Okay, so yeah, the Seda game was, I should characterize it as predictable, but still entertaining.
Yeah, I would say, in terms of what he showed, I think Saida looked third strongest.
Yeah,
roughly.
And maybe the second one was I think Crazio was the next one. He played Crazio anyway. That was yet again a good match. There was no doubt that Arthos is gonna win, but I think Crazio performed very well and did some crazy harassments like with raids. The raid play was awesome because
it was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was like he always stayed out of Goliath range, and I remember that Arthos did that, but well, even if he trapped that, then the raid just cloaked. And Arthos did that. He knew where the Wraith was, moved in the Goliaths, and scanned that. And suddenly all the Goliaths were firing at it. So yeah, I actively needed to counterplay Crazio's Wraith movement. So that was amazing. But yeah, it wasn't too close. I mean, it was there were some engagements that were favoring Crazio, but no, it wasn't. There was no doubt that Arthos is gonna win.
He did break the contain and was able to get up a third, but it was too late. But it was much closer than the Saida game might.
Yeah, I think so. Relatively speaking, it was closer. And then
Can I make a little suggestion? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, go on.
If SCHNAIL had a mailing list, that would be great, because some of us can't regularly check 16 Discords every day.
True.
Okay. I think that's like no effort to do. Okay, let's do it.
Just for big things like this, because I wouldn't have known about this other than the podcast.
It's a good idea.
Sure, I will do it soon.
Just for show matches and stuff. I think a lot of people would enjoy seeing streamers do show matches too.
Yeah, like we don't need daily updates of who's the best bot, but just the big news is really cool.
Like I didn't know that Arthos was going to play until you posted it, and then I watched the entire.
To be
Otherwise,
fair,
if I was not around, I wouldn't have tuned.
To be fair, it happened a little bit quickly, so I know that he wanted to play, but he just like messaged me at relatively not long before he went online. So we didn't plan it well in advance, and I'm not shitting on him because that's completely understandable. And he at no point he promised anything in terms of the time of the broadcast. So I'm just saying that it was not a good use case of the mailing list.
Well, you know he's listening to this right now, so be careful what you say.
Is he? Let's see.
Is he though? Just to meme it. So I'm hoping he's listening, but it's unlikely. So where was I? Yeah, show match. I'm just laughing at your comment in the chat. Okay, so the two next show matches, and I'm coupling them together because they went very similar. It was versus McRave and Marian Deveka. And he just crushed them, and there was not any question. But what I liked, it was the pro bots played well. They were just not at the skill level that Arthos was. That's all that happened. They performed like a weaker player, very human-like, I must add. And I think Marian Deveka I think McRave did a very, very good Muta micro, or pressuring at the right points, but ultimately Arthos countered it well.
No, that was the killer bot game.
That was sorry, I'm really confusing it. But
McRave did a Ling all in.
Oh yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. That was the killer bot game.
Yeah. And then
how good is Arthos now? Like, is he still okay, or like?
He's like 2000 ELO. He's A rated. He's good. I would say he's way better than I am. I'm probably like D.
He's still very near the top. Yeah, so sorry about that. Mutas were by Killerbot, and McRave went Ling all in, and yeah, it was just something that didn't work, and it played like any normal match.
And yeah, I agree with Dan. At one point, Arthos went and did his bio push, and he was like, "Oh, 3 Sunkens," and he just killed him, and that's just what it was. If he had, I think 6, he probably needed 6 Sunkens for his stim timing. Maybe could have got away with 5 if his mutas were picking off Marines during the runaway or the run over. But
yeah, that was. I think, but that's not really by chance, I think. So
What were the bots that he played against?
I will list the remaining two in because it was 6 matches, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
And why didn't he play against Purple Wave? We really wanted it to, but Purple Wave had an issue with the SCHNAIL environment, and we figured it out since, but we couldn't get it working until the last time. I'm really bummed about that. I really wanted to see Purple Wave versus Artosis, but maybe in the future.
Cool. I think that would have been the closest game.
I think, probably.
Depending on what build Purple Wave rolled. I'm not familiar with what builds he's running right now.
But now Dan can put in the if enemy name equals Artosis, then...
If Dan rolled his carrier build, it would have been a really good game, because Dan's carriers are top. Because Artosis hates carriers too.
It could be called the Battle of the Dans.
Yeah, Dan versus Dan.
So then the next match was Locutus, I think, and Locutus sadly used the stupid build and maybe bugged out a little bit, so that wasn't a good showing, sadly. But shit happens, I guess. That
build though, that's his seal clubbing build. That's exactly why I think it's dumb to put a seal clubbing build in your bot. He made a very safe zealot spam build and then A move, but his targeting doesn't let zealots target vultures. So they just kind of died to 3 vultures and then he just died. And it looked really bad. That sort
Which
of...
bot was that?
That was Locutus. That's his seal clubbing, and I get it. I get the idea of seal clubbing. But that right there is exactly why I don't agree with it, because it just makes your bot look worse when people watch it. They're like, what build is this? Like, why are you doing this? I get the reason for it. It just doesn't make sense to me. Don't do it. Go spend time making your bot better. You
or
can leave
disable
that build
those
in as
builds
a
on
crutch.
SCHNAIL.
Yeah, leave that as a crutch for now, which I think he disabled them now. But fuck, man. The seal clubbing thing just looks so silly sometimes.
To be fair, SCHNAIL is literally just went open beta a few days, yesterday, technically. So it is like baby steps, and developing a bot, it takes time. We will get there, but this is just the first show match, and I think even with that, no one could say that Locutus wasn't was a very potato bot, even with that stupid build.
Honestly, if he managed to get his goons off the ground, I don't think Artosis would have won. He makes so many nexuses and probes and just constantly sends goons in. I just don't think because Artosis is such a defensive TVP player. I think Locutus would have just rolled him over at some point. He just makes so many units. He would just killed so many tanks. He doesn't care.
I think that's a little bit underestimating Artosis' ability to adapt. And
I don't know.
So I wouldn't say that. Not because I'm a fanboy or anything. Probably he would have a hard time when first encountering the goons, but I'm not sure that he would lose a game necessarily.
It would have been really close at the very least.
And let's talk about the last game, which was the best of all, and it was against McRave. And it went on for 38 minutes. And
that's awesome. That's what you want to see in these matches.
Yeah, and I think, and most of the people agree with me, that McRave lost the game and not Artosis won that game. Because McRave just made a bad macro decision at some point. But it was so close at one point.
Yeah, I think at around 20 minutes in, I was so far ahead. I was I think 2 bases up. I just threw away the game. So the game started with him doing bunker expand, and my bot saw that and just decided to go 3 bases. And Artosis did not scout that. He scouted it last and then was like, oh crap, it was 3 base mass goon. And then all of a sudden some DTs come out and he only had 1 turret, so he had to stay home even longer. And then Arbiters come out and he doesn't have vessels yet, so he's got to stay home even longer. It could have gone better for me, but I think it just started suiciding too much. and just lost.
And I think the double expansion maybe was a great mistake. It's like the natural was almost busted, and then just the army pressure just ceased to exist. I think McRave just at least double, but maybe triple expanded, and couldn't afford an army. But at that point, like 10 more goons would have done the job, or maybe 5 more goons even.
Yeah, and what's fun, he saw the attack and he's like, "Oh, that's not going to work," but it did because he doesn't understand how bot goons work, and I think that was the surprising part for him. Is all of a sudden he lost 5 tanks, and now my goons are attacking his SCVs. And he was like pulling SCVs and freaking out and sieging tanks on high ground. And it was really close.
Well, you guys have sold this. I need to watch this today.
Yeah,
it was a really good game.
I will rewatch it sometime for sure, because it was very entertaining, quite close, and frankly, we could learn a lot from it.
The stasises were annoying the hell out of him. I would say about a quarter of his army was frozen at any point. I think I had 11 arbiters near the end.
He was making the serious face all the time.
Yeah, even the guys in chat were like, "Man, Artosis is quiet for this one." And it's like, well, when you have to play a macro game versus a bot, that doesn't sound too fun, because the bot doesn't have to, have that mindset of, "Oh, I got to micro and macro and think about what to do and scout this and do that." The bot just kind of always does it without any thinking.
And even...
Do you know why the McRave game was so good?
Didn't have your code in it?
Didn't have my code in it.
Yes.
Excellent memeing, sir. So yeah, it was very good, and I'm really glad, because I think many people were sold at that point that it is actually worth trying these bots out.
I hope so. I think that's sort of why I liked the showcase, but I was hoping that there would be play from, like, I'm glad Killerbot got chosen. I would rather see standard play bots if we do a showcase. So Locutus's new version, I hope it has basically none of his cheese that exploits bots, none of his seal clubbing, which I think he's done that. But people like Purple Waves bot, Banana Brain, kind of, just all these bots that have standard abilities and can play long games are just going to look way better for us in a showcase environment. And on top of that, it's really good for bot authors to be like, here's these obvious late game problems you have with your bot when I do this and this happens.
Playing against humans will make them play against AI better as well.
Exactly. Like, I know that my bot, Artosis was like, "Why did it take the third at the 12 o'clock? It shouldn't have taken it there. It should have taken it at the 9 o'clock, and it didn't." And he's like, "Well, it's easier to defend the 9 o'clock." And I agree. So maybe my expanding logic is bad. And then late game, he starts dropping tanks into my mains and just kills like 20 probes instantly. Why didn't I run those probes away? I should have realized, okay, nearest help is really far away. I should run these away. So these small, or like even my arbiters all stacked on each other and just kind of did nothing. They didn't attack. They just stasis stuff and make things cloaked. Then I also have the issue where I suicided for like 10 minutes and lost my lead. So there's a lot of small like intricacies that you're not going to see in a bot versus bot game.
It sounds really cool. And it also kind of highlights that problem that we have right now at the state of StarCraft AI, where you're like, well, here's these 10 things that I need to hard code in fixes for.
Yeah, exactly. The whole when this happens, do this is really, that's probably my least favorite part about StarCraft is when their bot does this build, I should do this build because I have an 8% win rate. I'm like, oh fuck, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to make my mutas path cool stuff and snipe things. And I like working on the gameplay aspects, not the strategy aspects, I guess.
And then when I don't know if you've reached this point yet, but like 10 years ago when Alberta bot was a muta microbot, like the first competition, it's like it all comes down to how you handle latency. Have fun.
Oh yeah.
So annoying.
I hate dealing with latency. I think I have it disabled, but I don't know. I forgot.
There was a clip, but there is a clip of Arthur saying that something like, well, I'm impressed, or color me impressed. And that was, I think, that was an ego boost for McRave.
That was nice. I think the exact phrase is, wow, color me impressed, or something like that. And he said it with his, wow, like his Owen Wilson voice for some reason.
Wow.
Wow, color me impressed.
But as bot authors, we know that the difference between a colorist comment or a that was really shit comment is like some random bullshit that could happen, right?
Oh yeah.
So it's like fingers crossed, because in a human game, if you make a little mistake, it's so easy to recover. But like if that Boolean got flipped or you chose the wrong strategy randomly or whatever.
I'm glad that my version did well. So Dan or Purple Wave asked him to. I wasn't too happy, only because I don't know what state this version is. I don't know if it's the bugged version. It seems like it's still a bugged copy, but I don't know. Yeah, there's that clip that Dan posted just now, but I have another one I want.
Send them all, and I will put them in the description of this episode.
I'll put them in. I'll put them in general chat here. So there's one where I dove on his tanks and took out all of his tanks, and at that point, if I just had more goons, I might have killed him, or if my goons just stopped screwing up firing stuff. And then there's this one where he says the famous line of "Color me impressed."
It was certainly a close match, and I loved it.
Yeah, it was a great match.
Well, I think we basically said all we want to say. I think that's the end of this topic. Feel free to add more. I'm not going to stop you. Two things came into my mind. First of all is I will try to add some kind of scoring, even just win rate to SCHNAIL soon. And I will add a feature that you can mark your bot as a practice bot, which means it will not participate in ranked ladders, but you can still practice against it, because some bots are just, I think some bots are better for that purpose.
Sounds good. Yeah, I might mark mine as a practice one, but I don't know.
Please don't.
I don't know. I'll leave it the way it is.
And other than that, scoring needs to happen as well, and I think that will be the next big user base boost, because as soon as you put a number in front of people that this is your score, doesn't matter if it's ELO, MMR, good boy points, or just amount of turnips, whatever, they will try to increase that score by any means necessary.
Did you say amount of turnips?
Yeah, what's wrong with turnips?
Everything. Turnips. Ugh.
You want to hear something really funny about turnips? My whole life, I live in Newfoundland, and turnip is a pretty staple food in our normal family dinner. And I didn't know until last year that what we call turnip isn't a turnip, but it's a rutabaga.
What?
And that's pretty common. Yeah. So those big yellow orangey turnips, that's not a turnip, that's a rutabaga.
Oh, that's what I thought a turnip is.
They're a turnip carrots. A turnip is like a really small white looking thing, almost like a big radish.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, my
Who's been lying?
Turnip is not something you eat, it's something you put in the soup to give it some taste, but you don't directly eat it.
Yeah, so if you Google image search turnip, what you see is not what we're used to in Canada.
Yeah, that's not what I'm used to seeing. Also, I was thinking of parsnip as the fake carrot. Parsnip is like a cross between a carrot and a potato, but the worst of both things. I hate them.
McRave, if I can tell a 2-minute story that McRave reminded me of, it's so funny. When you said that your arbiters weren't working properly, probably my funniest moment ever playing StarCraft was I was playing a ranked ladder match at my friend's house. Like this was when StarCraft was, like 2000 or something like that. And I wasn't very good, but I was actually like winning this match and my heart was going really fast. And so I wasn't paying attention to a couple of things. But I knew that my opponent was about to attack me. And I had like a ton of Dragoons with a single Arbiter cloaking them all. And I had an observer on the army that was about to attack me. So I tried to move my units all up to the choke point. So what I did was I selected my Dragoons, I clicked A, and then I clicked the choke point. What I didn't realize was that my friend's mouse that I was using was really bad, and that click didn't register. And then I went to select my Arbiter with the A command still queued and not realizing it, and used all my Dragoons to attack my Arbiter.
Did you
And then I was,
Arbiter?
yeah, oh, it just blew up. So all my units became uncloaked, and when that happened, I like threw up my hands in disgust. But I was on a wheelie chair, and one of the wheels broke. I fell backwards and hit my back on his coffee table, and I was lying on the ground watching my base being destroyed, just like in pain. I couldn't move.
What a sequence of events.
It sounds like something out of a sitcom.
Yeah.
I know, but it was like, here I am
That's
lying
amazing.
on the floor watching all of my uncloaked Dragoons just being killed, and I can't. And my friend was there just laughing at me.
That's funny. Alright, guys, I think I'm out of topics. Anything you want to bring up, feel free to share stupid stories all night long.
I ain't got nothing. I gotta go going out for a walk for some exercise to get out.
Have fun. I told myself I was going to do that, but then I didn't.
Did this instead. The
Yeah.
sacrifices we make.
I have to now watch this video that is 22727 long.
Don't you dare not doing that. Alrighty then. In that case, I think it's time to say goodbye. And it took great willpower to not sing that. And thank you for being here. It was a very fun and entertaining cast. And I hope to see you again.
Definitely. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me.